Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. Today's topic is deeply personal, social, and global at the same time. We're going to explore a question that many countries are now facing, but Japan shows it in one of its most extreme forms. What happens to society, to gender, to relationships, and to happiness when traditional expectations, like marriage, family roles, and gender norms, stop being the default? This isn't just a story about Japan. It's a story about where modern societies are heading. But Japan gives us a kind of social laboratory, a country where modernization, aging demographics, digital culture, individualism, and tradition collide every single day. So let's begin. For decades, Japanese society expected people to follow a predictable life script. Study hard, get a stable job, get married, have children, raise them, work until retirement, and then enjoy a quiet old age. That model shaped gender roles, relationships, economics, and even identity. But today, that script is fracturing. Marriage rates are dropping. Birth rates are among the lowest in the world. Many women choose independence rather than traditional roles. Many men feel the expectations placed on them, financially, emotionally, socially, are unrealistic. And a growing number of young people feel disconnected from the idea that marriage is the only path to meaning or adulthood. To understand how this happened, we need to talk about feminism in Japan and what makes it different from the feminist movements in Europe or the United States. In Western countries, feminism evolved through political struggle, voting rights, civil rights movements, gender equality in the workplace, and reproductive freedom. It was loud, confrontational at times, and tied to broader social change. In Japan, feminism grew differently. It developed later and more quietly. Instead of mass protests, change often happened through conversation, literature, universities, advocacy groups, and policy proposals. Feminism in Japan has focused on issues like workplace inequality, unpaid care burdens, access to career progression, harassment, and legal limitations, such as the inability for married couples to have separate surnames. There have been powerful moments, too. The #KuToo movement challenged workplace dress codes, specifically the expectation that women should wear high heels. Japan had its own phase of Me Too testimonies, though the cultural resistance was strong. Many women, especially younger generations, have begun questioning why paid work and unpaid domestic labor still fall disproportionately on them. Meanwhile, men have their own silent crisis. Japan has one of the highest rates of social isolation among men. Many grow up being taught emotional restraint, duty, endurance, and the idea that a man's worth is tied to financial stability and career success. But as job security declines, wages stagnate, work becomes more precarious, and emotional skills become more necessary in relationships. Many men feel like the rules changed, but no one taught them how to adapt. Some withdraw. Some resent expectations they feel they can't meet. And some fall into anti-feminist or anti-women online spaces, not necessarily because they oppose equality, but because they feel left behind or unseen. So now we have a paradox. Both Japanese women and Japanese men feel constrained by old systems that no longer fit the present, but they sometimes direct their frustration at each other rather than the structures themselves. To understand what's happening now, we also need to look at relationships and the dating landscape. Dating in Japan today, much like in South Korea, the US, and Europe, is increasingly shaped by technology, social comparison, and economic inequality. Apps turn attraction into data. Relationships require emotional skills that older generations never had to learn. People want compatibility, shared values, respect, emotional support, and equality. But the old gender norms still linger. Women are expected to be agreeable and nurturing. Men are expected to earn more, lead more, express less, and never show weakness. In a world where expectations rise but support doesn't, many simply opt out. Some say, I don't want to date. Others say, if I can't afford marriage, I shouldn't pursue it. And many quietly believe, love is too risky, too expensive, too complicated. Birth rates fall, not because people hate children, but because the system around family life is outdated. Childcare is expensive, work culture is demanding. Parental responsibility, especially emotional labor, falls heavily on mothers. And fathers who want to be involved often face workplace pressure not to take leave or adjust schedules. In countries like Sweden or France, fertility rates stayed higher because governments changed the system. Shared parental leave, financial support, childcare access, tax structures, and flexible work. Japan is trying, but slowly. So now we arrive at the deeper question. If traditional marriage is no longer the universal life path, where do people find happiness? Modern psychology offers insight. Happiness is not a single outcome, not a reward for following society's script. It comes from emotion, meaning, connection, growth, and autonomy. In Japan today, and increasingly worldwide, people are redefining what fulfills them. Some find happiness in independence, the freedom to design daily life with intention and peace. Some find fulfillment in passion, art, gaming, research, music, nature, technology, something that gives flow and immersion. Some build chosen families, groups of friends, creative partners, communities, or online networks where belonging grows without legal obligation. Some pour love into animals, nature, or caregiving work. Some pursue a life of meaning, volunteering, activism, teaching, healing, mentoring. And some still choose marriage and parenting, but now as an intentional path, not automatic destiny. The point is, happiness has multiplied into many forms. Loneliness, then, is not the absence of marriage. Loneliness is the absence of belonging. You can be lonely inside a marriage and deeply connected living alone. You can be surrounded by people and feel unseen, or share a quiet life with a pet and feel deeply fulfilled. So if society is changing, and relationships are changing, and gender roles are changing, what future lies ahead? Japan may move toward a model where life isn't defined by one partner, but by networks. More solo living, shared housing, flexible family structures, co-parenting arrangements, digital companionship, and AI support systems. It may become normal to live alone for decades and then join a community. It may become normal to share parenting without being married. It may become normal to treat emotional connection as something that can exist in many forms, not only romantic or nuclear family structures. But this future requires something from us. We need to learn to design our own lives instead of inheriting one. To live well in this new reality, we need financial flexibility, not necessarily wealth, but the ability to make choices. We need emotional autonomy, the ability to know our values and communicate boundaries. We need multiple relationships, not dependence on one person for every emotional role. We need control of our time, the ability to prioritize what matters. And we need meaning, not one given to us, but one we create. Because the question is shifting. It's no longer, how do I live the life society expects? It's becoming, what kind of life makes me feel alive? So if marriage appears less often, and birth rates decline, and relationships evolve, we should not interpret that as the end of love or the collapse of meaning. Instead, it may be the beginning of a more intentional era, where identity, relationships, family, and purpose are chosen, not assumed. Maybe the future isn't about one model of happiness. Maybe the future is a menu, a canvas, a landscape of choices. And whether you live alone, with a partner, with friends, with a community, or with a digital companion, you still deserve connection, peace, purpose, and belonging. So wherever you are in life and whatever path you choose, remember this. Your worth is not defined by whether you achieve society's milestones. Your life does not require a template. You are allowed to build a life that fits your values, your rhythm, your heart. And you are allowed to choose a happiness that feels true, not to culture, not to tradition, not to expectation, but to you. Thank you for listening. If this gave you something to think about, share it, comment, or reflect on your own story. And until next time, take care of yourself and live with intention.